Hi everybody, Dan Illman here with some exciting news. DRF Formulator, the gold standard in past performance information, is now free, exclusively on DRF Bets. Join DRF Bets with the promo code WINNING, get a $250 first deposit match bonus, a $10 free bet, and free Formulator already uploaded to your account. Access Formulator's premium features, including sortable trainer stats, race replays, personalized trip notes, and lots more. Free Formulator, exclusively on DRF Bets. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, race number 11 at Gulfstream Park on Pegasus World Cup Saturday is the Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational. Here's the field, 1.1 miles on the turf, $1 million is the purse. And really the question of this race, Mike, is what are we going to get off a lengthy layoff from the number 6 Colonel Liam? The first 5 months of 2021, Colonel Liam was the best turf horse in the country. He won this race last year, but he's been away a long time. The good news is Fletcher is amazing with layoff horses.
Yeah, Fletcher is one of the guys. I guess you don't really worry about layoffs with him. Yeah, I mean, I guess he is the horse to beat, Dan, even with the layoff factored in, because he was, obviously very good once they switched him over to turf, sort of summer 2020 and then into the first part of last year. I don't think he's necessarily, even when he's in, top form, it's not like he lays over this field. There are some good horses in this race, but it certainly would make him the horse to beat if he came back in form.
Let's throw up the time form US pace projector, because I'm curious as to your thoughts whether this pace will be fast and whether the 12 Never Surprised will get to an uncontested early lead. Personally, I'm not sure if Flavius or Atone are really going to try to make the front. Channel Cat is a speed horse, but has shown his speed in sort of marathon distances. I would think that the number 7 Doswell is going to be pushing the 12 Never Surprised.
Yeah, Doswell, I feel like he almost has to go in this race. He may not be fast enough to get there, but he's got to try it. Certainly Channel Cat's going. I mean, I feel like it's pretty clear at this point that his absolute best races come when they use his speed. I think his connections know that. He's going in this race. Never Surprised is a very fast horse. He's got a lot of upside still. He comes off of 2 easy wins. Post 12 kind of forces his hand. So maybe this pace will get fast, and I certainly feel like there's a real chance it could.
And if it does, it could help Space Traveler, who was wired by Doswell last time out in the Fort Lauderdale. He had a tough post that day. Post 12, he was able to get up for 4th in that race. Blinkers go on for trainer Brendan Walsh. This horse hasn't been able to get over the hump in North America. 0 for 5 in the States, group winner overseas.
Yeah, we'll see what he does. I mean, I suppose a fast pace could work to his advantage. I personally, Dan, I don't feel like anything could work to this horse's advantage in here. I just don't like any of his races since they got him here last summer. I realized that 1.25 miles in that Mr. D at Arlington was probably too far for him. I didn't really feel like he ran that well in any of his last 3 races, though. He had post 12 last time. I thought he got a perfectly good trip in there. He tried to follow Atone around the second turn, and he wasn't good enough, finishing 3rd. He moves inside here. Maybe the blinkers make some kind of difference, but I don't like this horse.
Mike Maker has the number 2 Atone, and this horse just seems to be improving for Maker, a winner of a 2 other than at Aqueduct 2 starts back. I didn't really love that race. He beat an okay field, but he outperformed expectations at a big price when rallying for second behind gate to wire winner Doswell in the Fort Lauderdale. He has that tactical speed to work out a trip just in behind the leaders.
Yeah, he can get a good trip. That's the one thing that you like about Atone, that he has really good tactical speed. He wound up getting into a pretty good position last time in the Fort Lauderdale, but that was only after he got sort of caught wide around the first turn. And I thought he took a really nice run at Doswell, only second best at the end in there, but to me it was certainly the best race he's ever run. And perhaps that's a good sign for this horse as he steps up in class.
Flavius, the number 3, was a multiple stakes winner for trainer Chad Brown. He was purchased for $230,000 at the Keeneland November sale and will now make his first start for Maker. Let's watch his last start of 2021, a 3rd place finish in the Artie Schiller Stakes. One of the also-rans in here would come back to win a 3 other than with a 94 Beyer speed figure. This horse does have some fast races on his page, Mike. It's first-time Maker, and he has some tactical speed. He can win from on the lead. He can win from off of it.
Yeah, I think they're going to take him off the pace this time. His only win last year in that lure at Saratoga, where somehow he just got absolutely loose on a slow pace. And he just gave that field no chance. He's pretty good though, Dan. I mean, he's not easy to trust, but he's run some good races. Going back to that Artie Schiller last time, I thought both he and March to the Arch, the horse right to his outside, I think they both had excuses in there. Before we picked up that replay we just showed, they both got shuffled back around the second turn and then finished really well. The problem with that race, and the reason that I couldn't talk myself into him, is that the horse that won Mandate is almost an impossible horse to like. He was 1,000,000 to 1 in there, and it's not like he lucked into that win. He just made some kind of crazy run from off the pace and won it. To me, it just made the 3 and the 4 too hard to take in there, but I'd like to use them both at big prices if they are.
And you mentioned the trouble for March to the Arch. Hasn't that been the story of his life?
Yeah.
Now, maybe his running style just makes him cause his own problems because he likes to be taken back and he needs room. He's closing in on $1 million in earnings. A lot of what ifs if he had better trips.
I know. I mean, I almost put him on top in here, Dan, because he's going to be a good price. And I do think the 1 1/8 is okay for him. Thought he had an excuse last time. Thought he ran fine in the Woodbine Mile in a race where he had no chance, in a race that was dominated on the lead. His only win last year came in a race that set up perfectly for him, but at least it showed that he could still run. He's going to be a big price in this race. I don't fully trust him, but I'm going to use him.
I think Hit the Road is one of the better turf horses in North America. He will be stretching out past a mile for the first time in his career. Let's watch his most recent race, a third in the City of Hope Stakes. And Mike, this trip just didn't work out.
Yeah, to me, he got very lucky in here. Did not get a good ride in here. It looked like he was going to go forward early, Dan, and then it seemed like his rider just changed his mind and took him back to the inside, got caught behind a horse that was stopping around the turn. To me, he was obviously just very unlucky not to win that race against two really nice horses. The 1 1/8, I guess it's a concern. But to me, this is just a really good horse, and I think he's a major, major player in here.
I agree. I think you have to use him. You saw him. He finished just behind Smooth Like Straight, who came back to run second in the Breeders' Cup Mile with a 105 buyer. Now, Hit the Road was entered in the Breeders' Cup Mile. He got sick the day of the race and had to be scratched. So he's coming off into this race off a little bit of a layoff. Colonel Liam won this race last year, seemed to love Gulfstream Park last year. And then he won the Muniz. It was a good spot for him. Then in the Turf Classic, he dead heated for the win with Domestic Spending, arguably the best turf horse in the country right now, although Domestic Spending ran better than he did, I thought. Last time out, was it simply just the distance and maybe a long campaign early in the year?
I mean, it could have been. It was also a pretty solid pace going on in there. And, he sort of chased it a little bit before he got tired. I don't want to make too many excuses for him in there, Dan. He just didn't run well in the Manhattan, and Fletcher stopped on him after that. So we'll see if he just needed a little bit of time. I could go either way on him. I know that he won this race last year, and I thought he actually ran really well in that race. I'll go out on a limb, though, and say that this field is tougher than that field. And, other than that, I sort of agree with your take on the Turf Classic. I know it got him another grade 1. Domestic Spending probably ran a little better than he did that day. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and knock him too hard, but I'm happy to bet against him if he's the favorite.
Doswell has always been in good form. He's always been solid. He's always right there at the wire. He just wasn't really a prolific winner. I think the connections have now figured out you got to get him forward. You got to get him up front. Let's watch his last race, the Fort Lauderdale, where he beat several of these horses, and that's what happened. He got to the lead. He was able to set a rated enough pace. He sprints on home to beat a tone. He earned a 100 buyer speed figure. Now, maybe this race was pace and trip aided, and he's not going to get that set up here. But he is in good form, and he's bound to be a price once again.
Yeah, he's a pretty nice horse, and I do think he really has a chance in here. I just wonder if he can do it without the lead, Dan. And he's run well without the lead before, but he's won 3 times in his career. Every one of those races when he just controlled the action up front. It feels like it's going to be hard for him to do that in here against a really good field. That concerns me more than anything else about Doswell, but I like him as a horse.
Our next 2 horses would really benefit from a fast pace up front. That's Sacred Life for Chad Brown, Field Pass for Michael Maker, and they come out of the same race. Let's watch the Seabiscuit Handicap. It was a race won by Field Pass, coming from off the pace. He beat a couple of next out winners. Sacred Life was odds on in here, and he finished second. Take me through the stretch run, Mike.
I mean, you're just going to see Field Pass, dig in really gamely on the lead here and deny Sacred Life, who to me got a perfectly good trip in here, Dan. And he got clear with time, and he just can't get by at the end. I have no problem necessarily with the race that Sacred Life ran, but it kind of felt like, more of the same for this horse who's been over here for a while now for Chad Brown, and he just very, very rarely wins. It's interesting to go back and look at that Knickerbocker 2 starts back, which was over this distance, because he came with a flying finish. There was a solid pace going on in there, but he flew late to get up. To me, he just didn't run as well last time in the Seabiscuit. And I don't think he has some kind of big excuse in there. I just feel like Field Pass ran a better race than he did.
And he did beat Field Pass in the Knickerbocker. We saw the Seabiscuit. Let's talk a little bit about Field Pass. This has always just been a very, very solid horse and a very tactical horse. You can do anything you want with him. And I think that's a great advantage in a race like this, where they can play the break and pretty much decide what they want to do. If the pace is blazing, he can come from 100 out of it. If it's not, he can either get to the lead or sit just off.
Yeah, that's what I like about him too, Dan. He was a really good 3-year-old. I think he was, very well managed as a 3-year-old, but I think he also won like 5 or 6 stakes races. He was really underrated. He came back last year and I thought ran, really well in underrated races in his first 3 starts without winning. And he just went on and had a really good campaign after that. I would say go back to that Seabiscuit last time. We showed you the stretch run, but go back and watch the start of that race, because they rated him very briefly early. And then Rispoli was just, once they got to the backstretch, he was like, you know what? I'm not going to sit. He made a really early move in that race to take it over, and he still held on at the end. I think that was an underrated win for him last time, even though it was, only by a short margin. I think he's a really interesting horse in here. The 9 furlongs is not a problem for him.
Channel Cats banked $1.5 million in his career, and it will be interesting to see if the 9 furlongs is a bit sharp for him. But Jack Sisterson knows what he's doing. He could have run this horse in the McKnight against maybe a weaker field, going a distance he knows this horse appreciates. Blinkers off on my first cut of PPs. Let's watch his run in the Red Smith last time out with blinkers on. He showed his customary early speed. This race, of course, at 1 3/8, and he's just going to get pipped late. He's always been a very consistent horse. I do wonder if the faster pace at this shorter distance could hurt him a little bit.
Yeah, it could. If they go fast early, I think it is going to work against Channel Cat, because I do think that they've realized that he has to be on the lead to be most effective. And you can just see, going back to that race at Kentucky Downs last September, Dan, they tried to rate him that day, and he was really, really bad that day. That was not a good performance. But all of his races where they put him on the lead, he's really, really good. He's so dangerous because he fights so hard through the stretch of his races. He's not easy to pass. I don't know if he can get control of this pace early, but if he does, he might be really hard to run down.
Cross Border comes into this race in good form for Maker. He just won a synthetic stakes race at Turfway, coming from well off of the pace. But he's a turf horse. He's a multiple graded stakes winner on the lawn. He's the kind of horse that can work out trips. I'm not sure he's a true grade 1 type, although he is grade 1 placed in his career, and he ran an okay 3rd in this race last year.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he's just another horse. He's really underrated. He can get any kind of a trip in a race. So you feel like, when he's some kind of a big price, even if it looks like he might be in a little tough, maybe you want to think about using him somewhere, at least to get a piece of it. I didn't want him on top necessarily in this race, but I wouldn't be surprised if he runs well, Dan. He's run a ton of good races.
Last year, Todd Fletcher used the Tropical Park Derby as a springboard for Colonel Liam's success in the Pegasus. He's going to try to use the same pattern with the talented and lightly raced Never Surprise. Let's watch his speedy win in the Tropical Park Derby. He was 1-2. He towered over the field on paper. He wins this race very, very easily. This coming off the heels of another facile win against stakes competition at Aqueduct. First time against older horses here, but this horse has shown a lot of ability, and I just think Louis Sy is probably just going to let him roll out of the gate.
Yeah, I feel like they probably will too. I don't know that they have that many options from the far outside post. We'll see what they decide to do. It's certainly a step up in class, facing straight 3-year-olds in his last 2 starts, just horses that had no chance to go with him. But man, he just absolutely buried those horses. He's got a lot of upside. It feels like he has a ton of talent. I didn't particularly want him in this race, but I do think there's a chance he turns out to be really good.
This is a wide open race. You could make a case for 7 or 8 of these horses. I want to spread in any kind of multiple race wagers. Let's take a look at our top selections. Doswell's a big price. He's sharp. I think they're going to the front. Maybe he makes Never Surprise take a seat, but I've got to use several in here. And I might even throw in your top selection, Field Pass, because he is just a consistent horse. And you know he's going to be running at the end of this race.
Yeah, it feels like he's just going to get a good trip in here because he's that kind of a tactical horse. I wanted him because I think he's going to be a good price once again, Dan. And at the end of the day, I wanted prices in this race, and I didn't want favorites. I'm going to take Field Pass on top, hit the road. We'll see what kind of price he is. I just think he's good. And the 3 and the 4 to me. I don't love the race that they're coming out of, but I do think they both had excuses in that.
I do certainly want to use Hit the Road in any kind of exotic wager. He just looks like he fits very well with these kind of horses from a class and pace standpoint. 9-5-3-6 for Mike, 7-5-12-2 for me. Wide open race, the Grade 1 Pegasus World Cup at Gulfstream on Saturday. Good luck.